Most Americans will retire broke. 7 avoidable mistakes explain why, and you are likely making 3 right now. By the end of this, you will know exactly what those mistakes are, why they're so easy to make, and what you can do to reverse the damage starting this week. The math is going to surprise you. The Federal Reserve's most recent survey found that nearly a quarter of American adults have no retirement savings at all. The median retirement account balance for people in their 50s sits at just $208,000, less than 1/3 of what most financial planners consider minimally adequate. These are not edge cases. This is the average. Mistake number 1 is the one almost nobody discusses honestly. Starting too late, then compensating with nothing. People tell themselves they will get serious next year. Next year becomes a decade. And by then, the math has turned brutal. Invest $300 a month starting at 25 and you retire with roughly $907,000. Wait until 35 and invest $500 a month. More money, more sacrifice, more effort, and you still end up $340,000 behind. Time in the market is not a cliche. It is the single most powerful variable in your entire financial life, and it cannot be purchased back. Mistake number 2 costs the average American worker over $1,300 every single year. Failing to contribute enough to capture your full employer 401k match is the financial equivalent of turning down a guaranteed 50 to 100% return on your money. No legitimate investment reliably offers that. Yet roughly 1 in 3 workers leave it unclaimed every pay period. I have spoken with hundreds of people over the years who did everything right on paper, good income, stable job, consistent saver, and still arrived at retirement unprepared. Almost every one of them shared the next 2 mistakes in common. Mistake 3 is defaulting to the wrong account type for your tax situation. Most people choose traditional pre-tax accounts without ever modeling the alternative. For younger workers expected to earn more later in their careers, a Roth account frequently wins by a significant margin. The difference in after-tax retirement income can exceed $180,000 over the course of career. Mistake 4 destroys more retirement wealth than almost any other single decision. Selling investments during a market downturn. An investor who put $100,000 into an S&P 500 index fund before the 2008 financial crisis and held through the recovery has over $400,000 today. The investor who panic sold at the bottom and re-entered a year later has less than half that amount sitting in their account right now. The market will crash again. That is not a prediction. It is a certainty built into every long-term investment horizon. What separates people who retire comfortably from those who do not is almost never intelligence or income level. It is the discipline to stay still when every instinct screams to move. Mistake 5 is one most investors never see because it happens invisibly inside their accounts every single day without a single notification. A 1% annual fee sounds trivial. Over 30 years on a growing portfolio, that 1% costs you close to $370,000 in compounded growth. The fund does not lose that money. You simply hand it to the fund manager instead of keeping it yourself. Finding lower-cost alternatives is not complicated. Most employer 401k plans now include at least one low-cost index fund option. If yours does not, you are fully within your rights to ask HR why and to formally request that one be added to the lineup. This single change compounds for decades and has more long-term impact than nearly any other adjustment most people can realistically make. The 2 mistakes remaining are the ones I find myself discussing most frequently with people in their 40s and 50s, because by that point, the consequences are beginning to show up in ways that are difficult to rationalize or ignore. Fidelity estimates a retired couple will spend an average of $315,000 on healthcare costs during retirement, and that figure does not account for long-term care. Most people have not saved a single dollar specifically earmarked for this expense. The health savings account is the only account in the entire tax code that gives you a deduction going in, tax-free growth while invested, and tax-free withdrawals for qualified medical expenses. If your employer offers a high-deductible health plan paired with an HSA, maxing that account every year and investing the balance rather than spending it down is one of the most underutilized wealth-building strategies available to American workers. After age 65, the account converts functionally to a traditional IRA, meaning you can withdraw for any purpose at all with no penalty attached. Mistake 7 is the one nobody wants to hear, and it is becoming more common as economic pressure on households increases. It is the decision to treat your retirement account like an emergency fund, borrowing against it, cashing it out early, or quietly raiding it every time life gets expensive. The true cost of a $20,000 early retirement account withdrawal is not $20,000. After the penalty and taxes, you net around $13,600. But then you lose all the compounded growth that money would have generated over the following decades. For a typical investor with 20 years until retirement, that single withdrawal has a true cost approaching $84,000. It is never a small decision, no matter how necessary it feels in the moment. There are almost always better alternatives before touching retirement savings. Building a dedicated emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of living expenses is not optional for serious wealth builders. It is the buffer that protects your long-term financial life from short-term crises. Every dollar that remains inside a tax-advantaged retirement account is compounding silently every single hour. Here is what most financial content will not tell you directly. The gap between a comfortable retirement and a difficult one is rarely about income level. It is almost always about a handful of decisions, made consistently or inconsistently across many years when the stakes felt low. Every single decision on that timeline looks almost trivially small in the moment. Starting contributions feels like giving up $200 a month. Switching to index funds feels like an administrative task. Protecting your HSA balance feels inconvenient when the bill arrives. But each of those decisions compounds on the ones before it. Across 35 years, the cumulative difference is over $1 million. Run through this checklist this week, not this year, this week. You do not need to address all 7 at once. Fixing even 2 or 3 of these mistakes puts you materially ahead of the median American in your age bracket. Progress here does not require perfection or a financial advisor. It requires specificity, a decision, and the discipline to automate whatever you can immediately. Financial security in retirement is not primarily about luck, inheritance, or a high income. The evidence built across decades of data points clearly and consistently to the same conclusion. The people who arrive at retirement with real options are the ones who made boring, consistent, informed decisions over a long period of time. When you add up the estimated lifetime wealth cost of all 7 mistakes, the number is genuinely staggering. For the average American worker, making all 7 consistently across a career, the total reduction in retirement wealth exceeds $1.5 million. Avoiding even half of them fundamentally changes what the last 30 years of your life looks like in practical, daily terms. These are not optimistic projections built on exceptional circumstances. They are built on median income assumptions with standard index fund level returns available to anyone. The difference between the worst-case column and the best-case column is not a windfall or a lucky investment. It is a series of decisions that every single person watching this is fully capable of making right now. If you take one thing from this, make it the following. Wealth is built in the years when it feels like nothing is happening. The account grows slowly and then all at once. Your only job is to stay in the game, keep the costs low, and never allow a short-term crisis to make a permanent decision for you. Subscribe if straightforward, data-driven financial guidance is what you're looking for. There are no shortcuts on this channel and no schemes, just the same foundational principles that have helped ordinary people build real, lasting financial security for generations. The checklist from this video is in the description. That is the place to start.